Two cyclists walk into my lab, both around 70 kilos, both pushing 5 watts per kilogram on the bike. Same age, same VO2 max. On the paper, the same athlete. I draw their blood at the exact intensity. One has lactate 3 millimoles, the other almost 7. 2 weeks later, one of them is on the podium of a World Tour race. The other one isn't. So what's the difference? It's not the engine. It's not even the size of the engine. It's how the engine handles fuel. And once you understand this, the way you read your own numbers, your power, your heart rate, even your VO2 max completely changes. Hi, I'm Alessia Mossali. I'm a medical doctor and endurance coach. I work in sport performance and physiology with a focus on female endurance athletes because women's physiology has been ignoring sports science for way too long. This is Pedal Power Lab. Here we take performance science, the real peer-reviewed kind, and we make it usable. No supplements to sell, no influencer shortcuts, just the physiology behind the training explained in plain language so you can make better decisions every time you clip in. Today, we're talking about metabolism and specifically about the molecule that exercise science has misunderstood for almost 100 years, lactate. Let's get into it. If you've ever read anything about training, you heard the words aerobic and anaerobic. It's the cleanest, most intuitive idea in exercise physiology. Easy work is aerobic, hard work is anaerobic. There's a switch somewhere in the middle, and on the wrong side of that switch, lactate accumulates and you get tired. It's a beautiful story, and it's also wrong. The problem with this model isn't that it's too simple. Simple is fine. The problem is that it's described a switch where there isn't one. There's no aerobic system that turns off when intensity goes up. There's no anaerobic system that turns on. From the very first second you start pedaling, easy spin, recovery ride, full sprint, doesn't matter. Both pathways are running at the same time, always. What's changing isn't which system on. What changes is the balance between them. And here's the thing. The old model didn't just give us the wrong vocabulary, it gave us the wrong target. It made us chase numbers, the right number for VO2 max, the right number for FTP, the right number from blood lactate, as if the number itself was the goal. But the number isn't the goal. The number is a snapshot of a system. And the system, your metabolic system, has a logic of its own. And that's what we're going to look at today. Let's start with the molecule everyone gets wrong, lactate. For about 100 years, lactate was treated as a waste product. The story went like this. When you push hard enough, your muscle runs out of oxygen, glycolysis switches into emergency mode, lactate spikes up, you burn, you slow down, you stop, end of the story. That story was based on experiments from the early 1900s, done on isolated masculine dishes. No blood supply, no liver, no heart, no hormones. They saw lactate accumulate when oxygen was removed, and they concluded lactate equals oxygen depth. It made sense given the tools they had, but it describes a fragment of the system, not the whole system. Then, in the 1980s, a researcher at Berkeley named George Brooks proposed something radical, the lactate shuttle. He showed that lactate is produced continuously, even at rest, even with plenty of oxygen around. And this is the part that broke the old model, lactate isn't a waste product, it's a fuel. Your heart uses it, your brain uses it, your slow twitch muscle fiber use it. So Brooks called it the fulcrum of metabolism, the molecule that connects glycolysis and the mitochondria, and the link between the fast pathway and the slow pathway. Glycolysis, the process that breaks glucose down into smaller pieces, is always running. From the very first pedal stroke, at every intensity, it just runs faster as you push harder. The question isn't whether glycolysis is on, the question is whether your mitochondria can keep up with what glycolysis is producing. When the mitochondria can keep up, the system is balanced. Lactate is produced, lactate is cleared, and the level in your blood stays stable. When the mitochondria can't keep up, when production runs faster than clearance, the lactate starts to accumulate. Not because oxygen has disappeared. Oxygen is still there. The system has just lost the balance. Brooks figured out what lactate does. It shuttles, it moves within cells, it gets used as energy. But once you accept that, a new questions open. When does it actually get clear, and how well? This is where Inigo San comes in. His work zoomed in on the mitochondria, specifically how good they are at oxidizing lactate. And out of that research came what most people today call the modern Zone 2. Here's the idea. Zone 2, the way San defines it, It's not whatever your bike computer is showing, it's the intensity at which two things peak at the same time: the maximum fat oxidation and the maximum lactate clearance throughout the mitochondria. Both peaks. Same effort, it's not a coincidence, it's the same engine doing both jobs. This is what gets called metabolic flexibility, when your mitochondria are well trained, and the main way you train them is exactly by spending time in zone 2, they recycle lactate fast. It doesn't pile up in your blood, the system stays in balance. When they're insufficient, the opposite. Lactate climbs quickly, even at moderate intensity, and that climb is the early sign that the system is stressed. This is why Samiyan and his updated framework published this year propose that we stop talking about aerobic versus anaerobic and we start talking about 4 metabolic states. State 1 is low stress, basically resting. State 2 is equilibrium, the highest intensity at which the production and clear are perfectly matched. Stage 3 is drift. A lactate is rising slowly, but you can hold it for a while. And state 4 is overload. The system has broken down, you've got minutes, maybe seconds before you have to stop. Same body, same pathway, one continuous system, 4 states, depending on whether the system is in balance. So what determines whether the system stays in balance? This is where the second paper comes in. Samiyan and his team studied 21 World Tour professional cyclists, Tour de France level, and they ran a metabolic analysis on their blood before and after a graded test. They divided them into 2 groups based on lactate at 5 watts per kilogram. Group A had a low lactate at that intensity. Group B has high lactate, same VO₂max range, same body composition. The athletes in Group A, the one with low lactate at high intensity, went on to win or podium in the early season races. Group B didn't. What separates them? Not their oxygen ceiling, their ability to process substrates. They had bigger mitochondrial networks, they had cleared lactate faster, they oxidized amino acid and fats more efficiently, and they were better cars, bigger fuel processing capacity. Same engine size, different transmission. Okay, let me give you the picture I use with my athletes. Forget zones for a moment. Imagine your body as a car, not a normal car, a car with 3 fuel tanks. Tank 1 is carbohydrates. Think of it as a gasoline, high octane, burns fats, gives you power, but the tank is small. Maybe 90 minutes of hard riding before it runs dry. Tank 2 is fat. Think of it as a diesel, slow burn, less explosive, but the tank is enormous. Even a lean cyclist has tens of thousands of calories stored as fat. You could ride for days on a tank 2 if the engine could process it fast enough. Tank 3 is lactate, and this is the one nobody talks about. Lactate isn't a waste product of the engine spits out. Lactate is a fuel that gets recycled inside the car, your fast twitch fibers produce it, your slow twitch fibers and your heart drink it back up. It moves from one tissue to another, gets oxidized and turns into the energy. The better trained you are, the better your car is at recycling this stored fuel. Now here's the key. At any given moment, all 3 tanks are feeding the engine. The mix changes with intensity. Easy ride? Mostly tank 2, fat, with a small amount of tank 1 or 3. Tempo, tank 1 starts taking over. All out effort, tank 1 is dominant, tank 3 is being produced fast and recycled fast, and tank 2, fat, basically shuts off, because the engine can't process diesel quickly enough at that speed. Same as cooking. If you're a slow cookie stew, you can use almost any fuel. If you're searing a steak, in 2 minutes you need gas, not coals. The intensity dictates which tank does the work. So when someone tells you you should ride more fat burning zone, what they mean physiologically is ride an intensity where the engine has time to process the diesel tank. And when someone tells you to do high intensity intervals, what they mean is force the engine to produce and recycle so much lactate that the system gets bigger and faster at handling all 3 fuels. The training adaptation isn't about burning one fuel and not the other. It's about expanding the engine's capacity to process all 3. So what do you do with this on Monday morning when you swing your legs over the bike? 3 things. First, stop chasing the VO₂max number. I'll be honest with you. When I run a VO₂max test on an athlete, the value itself is not what I look at first. Don't get me wrong, it tells me something, it tells me the ceiling of the cardiorespiratory system, but 2 athletes with the identical VO₂max can have completely different racist behavior because what they separates them is what happens below that ceiling. How efficiently they oxidize fat, how well they clear lactate, how much of their VO₂max they can actually sustain without losing the balance. And the ceiling matters, but the height at which the system holds together matters more. Second, use lactate, not heart rate, when you can. Heart rate is a global sign. It tells you how hard the system is working overall, but it lies under fatigue, under heat, under stress, under poor sleep. Lactate is a metabolic signal. It tells you in real time whether your engine is balanced or losing balance. If you have access to lactate testing, even a basic field test with a finger prick meter, it will give you a much sharper picture of where your equilibrium sits at any heart rate zone calculator. Third, and this is the one that takes the longest to be internalized, train the capacity, not the number. The athlete who wins isn't the one with the highest VO2 max. The athlete who wins is the one whose engine can process more carbs, more fat, more lactate, faster for longer. That capacity is built. Long, controlled rides at the upper edge of the equilibrium build mitochondrial mass and fat oxidation capacity. Hard intervals with lactate clearance and shuttle efficiency. Both matters. Both are training the same integrated system from different angles. And one more thing, especially for my female athletes. Most of the foundational research on metabolism, including the lactate shuttle work, was done on men. The system works the same in women, but the substrate preferences, the hormonal modulation, the response to fuel are not identical. We'll get into that in the future episode. For now, just remember, a number that is right for a male athlete might not be right for you, so context always beats the number. Now, here where it gets interesting. If lactate is a fuel and not a waste product, that a question follows naturally. Can we drink it? Can we ingest it in the way we ingest carbohydrates? And does it actually change the performance? Recent results in marathon running, including some of the new world records, are pushing exactly that question into the spotlight. We'll go deep into the exogenous lactate in the next episode. So, if this is your kind of conversation, hit subscribe and stay with me. 3 things to take with you. 1. Glycolysis is always on, and lactate is a fuel, not a waste of product. Forget the aerobic-anaerobic switch. There isn't one. 2. Performance is determined by the capacity of your system to process all 3 fuels, carbs, fat, and lactate, not by the size of your VO2 max ceiling. 2 athletes with the same ceiling can race completely differently. And 3. Train the system, not the number. The number is a snapshot of a moving target. The training builds the capacity behind the snapshot. If this changed how you're thinking about your next ride even a little, subscribe on the channel. There's a full series coming on the science of endurance, how many carbs you actually need, the new evidence of exogenous lactate, why female athletes can train like smaller men, and how to actually use a power meter without becoming a slave of it, for examples. If you want to go deeper, and if you want training built around your physiology, not a template, I work one-on-one with cyclists and triathletes as a coach and physiologist. Links in the description, and on Instagram, I'm Pedal Power Lab. That's where the daily science breakdowns live in shortened forms. Train smart, trust the system, and not the number. If something here clicked for you, let me know in the comments. And if you want more of this, subscribe and turn on the bell. That's how you'll catch up the next one.